Urban development was a big topic at the legislature this week. A bill that would address a section of Colorado's construction defects law was sent to the House Kill Committee. Meanwhile, a proposal that would require cities to secure voter approval before using blighted status to redevelop agricultural land is also expected soon. Ed, you've written about both of these topics and all these different kind of issues at the Capitol. Give us the update.
Well, we've got a hearing coming up Monday on the construction defects reform bill. This is, for those who may not know it and live it and suck it in like it's oxygen like I do every day, this is a bill that would make it harder for small groups of residents within condos to file class action lawsuits to fix purported construction defects. It would make them get, for example, 50% of all residents to back a suit instead of 50% of the plus of the board members. This is going to the Kill Committee on Monday, and there are a few people who have a lot of hope that this is going to come out. And I'm going to go back to what I mentioned the last time around in terms of funders of things. It's a really interesting look at where money's going to speak in politics here. The committee it's going to has the 6 Democrats have received more than 11,000 combined from the Trial Lawyers Association in the last election cycle, which is the 3rd largest per capita amount of any committee in the House. I did my research on that. Meanwhile, 15 different groups who back this bill have funded either Republicans or in some cases Republicans and Democrats on this committee. So it's really a curious mix of where money is going to speak in this case. I think the coalition is a broad-based one that they've put together, looping in both builders and housing advocates is not something you see too often. I think it will come down to the central question, if any Democrats are going to flip, of believing that this is the step that is needed to increase what is basically a non-existent new affordable condo market over the idea that this will take away legal rights. Real quick, touching on the other one, that also is a flashpoint. It's described as an agricultural TIF bill. Others call it the anti-Gaylord bill because this is a bill that, if enacted, would in all it could go in and put another obstacle up to the building of the 1,500-room Gaylord Rockies Hotel out in Aurora. That's going to be a more interesting. That's not going to be a party fight. That's going to be all about the Aurora delegation fighting back against people who don't like the subsidies they're getting from the state in many ways. And that bill has yet to be introduced, but is expected to be coming very soon.
Penn, is this a proposal that will affect agricultural blighted land and attack on Aurora?
I think clearly it is. It's an example of a bill that bad facts lead to bad law. You may be opposed to the subsidies that Aurora and the state are providing to the project, but the way to deal with that is to deal with how the subsidies were awarded, not to change state law on all potential TIF deals with regard to agricultural land. On the other bill, the construction defects bill, I think that's pretty interesting because, as Ed pointed out, there is a legitimate argument that what this constitutes is the deprivation of property rights. You're basically telling condo owners who are in place how you can or cannot protect yourself if there's shoddy construction in your place. But the fundamental problem I have with the construction defects legislation is you've got all of these metro area mayors and other folks saying we need this for affordable housing. The bill's got nothing to do with affordable housing construction. And in my experience with developers, they have a right to make as much money as they can, but I've rarely seen a developer who will build affordable units when they can build market rate units and make more money. And this bill won't change that economic dynamic out in the development area.
Patty, we're surprised to see the various fights on this development issue?
Oh, shocked. We talked about this, last year. We talked about it this year. At the very start of this session, we knew this was going to be one of the big issues. It's talked about at seminars around town. People who are going out there trying to find anywhere to rent. They can't afford it. They can't afford to buy because there's nothing to buy. Unfortunately, the affordable housing, as Penn says, even if passed, this really wouldn't change that. But it might make the market change a little bit so that people can actually buy some housing. But it doesn't look like anyone's going to come up with a reasonable compromise on this. And after all the talk and 5 months, it's too bad.
David, what do you think?
Well, of course, when you increase the supply of something, the price tends to go down. So if you're building at the market rate, adding to the supply brings down the market price. It's preposterous that agricultural land could ever be condemned as blighted. This blight, came from urban renewal, where you say, oh, Larimer Square is Skid Row, so we're going to kick all the bums out and take over people's property and develop it into a little tourist trap. That's what it was meant for. It's been so abused. Parts of Vail have been condemned as blighted, as a pretext for the government to take the property from one owner and give it to somebody else. It's ridiculous that agricultural land could ever be considered blighted unless actual fungal corn blight is present there.